Hello to all my programmer friends, the followers of this channel, to all my technocrats. Finally, the wait is over. Today I am starting the much awaited Python on the job tutorial series. So, we are going to begin with very basics. So, people who have already known Python even a little bit may perhaps find this video a bit I won't say boring, but a bit redundant. But I would still urge you to see this because, as I said, the entire purpose of me making yet another Python web series is not to give you the syntax or not to give you all those things which many people have given, but to give you a totally different perspective. And after all, the aim is to get you up and running on the job. So let's get started. So for those people who don't know Python is an interpreted robust language and it also has object-oriented programming in it. For those absolute beginners who still find it confusing to understand what compiled and interpreted language means, well, you know that we write code in some kind of a typical style of sequence of commands and instructions in a particular way that a computer understands. It's called a computer language. So the processor doesn't understand this, right? Processor understands the zeros and ones, the binary code. So now to convert this program into binary code, there are two ways. One, you write the code and you totally compile it into a binary code all at one go. And then as an executable, the processor will run that code. So you might have many modules together, many files together in a single executable or a single file or whatever. But then it's compiled, that is, it is converted to binary code once for all, and that work is done by a compiler. And the other way is to take the source code as it is and take the interpreter. What it means, an interpreter is that as every line is encountered, it is converted to a binary code on the spot and then sent over to the processor for execution. Well, this is the purest way of explaining it. Python and Java or similar languages do compile its code into what is called as the bytecode, which is in a way a simplified binary code. It's not actually complete binary, but it's called bytecode because then there will be an interpreter which can understand and finally execute it. The advantage of such an approach, although it might be slightly slower than a complete compiled language, is that it's very maintainable and the time taken between writing the code and executing it is very less. And if you find some bug or some problem, you can fix it on the spot and get going. And that is the reason most of the work is done using interpreted languages these days. And another advantage of an interpreted language is that the source code is absolutely platform independent. You carry the respective interpreter of that concerned OS and then you are good to go. So Python is like that. Then of course there is Java, there's Ruby, all languages come in this category. Why? In fact, Python is my most favorite language. Why it is so? One of the major reasons why I find Python so wonderful, so amazing is that the syntax is almost like English, and you are going to really understand this. If you have specially done other languages, you would know what I'm talking about. When you write the code, it's as good as talking to the computer in literal English. Especially when you write the conditions, the loops, when you use some modules, you will come to know what I'm talking about, because right now you can just take it from me that the syntax is not just easy, but it's more close towards our natural English language. And that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people like Python. Of course, as an interpreted language, the memory management is dynamic, but Python goes one step forward. It's amongst those league of languages where memory management and data type definition, which I'm going to talk about in a while, is absolutely great. As I said, it's a platform independent language and you really need not worry about where you are using it. And of course, nothing great about it, but I just need to mention this, that you can do coding in Python using Eclipse, Emacs. That's my favorite, and of course all other integrated development environments you may know about. So if you're still not convinced, and a lot of us are pragmatic, and you wish to know who uses Python, well, this is the list. NASA uses Python, Google uses, in fact, Google uses a lot of Python. And if the information is correct, even Reliance has, as I know it personally from a few of my friends, my mentees who then went on to work in several places, they are also using Python for some work. In fact, Python is everywhere now, and that is the reason why all you guys and girls are seeing this video and giving your precious time in the first place. So here we go. Now, one important instruction slash recommendation slash suggestion from my end. Now that we are going to do assignments or practicals, I recommend you that you pause the video whenever an assignment is done and you want to try it out, and then continue. I'm saying this because I know a lot of people do binge watching of tutorials on programming languages or other technologies, just like we do binge watching of web series and TV series. But please don't do this, because you might feel that you have understood it, but when you actually get onto the desk and try to work on some things, you will find that you quite did not understand it. So please don't do binge watching. Please don't try to digest things all at once. Pause the video, take your time, do the assignment, and come back. Before we get into all this, because I am also going to demonstrate how things work. Few instructions. So I have given the link to the assignments for all the tutorials in this series. It's on GitLab. Those who understand GitLab can actually clone the repository, but a compressed file will also be available. I have given the link in the description. When you download it and when you unzip it, you'll get a folder called Python, or if you clone the repository, you'll get a folder called Python. The name of today's assignment is assignments_introduction. That is the folder you have to get into, and I'll tell you which file to open when we talk about stuff. So let's try and do things now. As we see, as I said, Python is an interpreted language, and I'm actually going to show you how the interpreter works. And for that, Python has a brilliant tool. It has its own prompt, and now that's exactly what I am going to do. I'll press Alt Control T. In Windows, of course, you can type CMD in your run box. So Alt Control T, and then let's type Python3. Okay, as soon as I did that, the prompt changed to this. So this is how a Python prompt looks. Let's do something very, very simple and basic. So let's say, for example, 5 plus, okay, 5. All right, 5 plus 5. This was the line, and we immediately got the result. So this prompt you will be using maybe just for today, because this is our first session. And sometimes when you write a chunk of code, a large piece of code, a module, and there's some part which is not working and you want to see how a certain thing works, for experimentation purpose, this can be very useful. So either for study or for some simple experiments, a prompt like this is used. Otherwise, you'll be mostly writing your code into file with an extension .py. So now let's do something little practical, because 5 plus 5 is just a calculating thing. But I did that to drive home the point that with this prompt you can actually experiment with code of Python, because when you write code in Python, when you're programming Python and it's your first time, every line you execute will give you immediate result. So let's check one more thing now. Name equal to input, input into quotes, please enter your name, quotes complete, parenthesis complete. So input is a function, and the moment I press enter, there you go, the prompt came up, please enter your name. So another example of every line executing as you type it. So I'll say KK. So what did this line do? So we got a variable called name, and I'm deliberately using the word got because unlike Java or C++, you don't have to declare a variable before using it. You start using it, Python knows you want to declare a variable. And I'll just prove it to you. Let's use the print statement, the print function. Print hi plus name. So print left parenthesis quotes hi quotes plus name right parenthesis. So this is also called concatenation. So hi was a string and there was another string in the variable name and we concatenated it. Pretty simple. But this is your literal handshake with Python. I would suggest you pause the video. I've already told you the folder name. It's assignment underscore introduction. You can open the file first task. It's a txt file and follow the instructions. Okay, welcome back. So we just did an input output, simple input output. We got an input function which not just took the data but also prompted us to enter some data, and then we declared a variable in that one line itself, because declaring is as good as using and as using is as good as declaring in Python. That's first beautiful part of this language, as you can already see. But the obvious question is that, and especially this might come to those people who are coming to Python from other languages and this is your first handshake. What data type was that variable? Now, I think when I say name, it was pretty obvious, but let me tell you this, Python defines data types on its own. It's smart in that. And Python exactly knows what to do with the data, what data type to assign. Now you might say that's a great thing. Yes, that's one of the real great things of Python language. Having said that, it is something like playing with fire. It's a double-edged sword. While it's great that Python declares its data types automatically to the variables, it's also necessary for us to understand that there could be caveats with this. So at the very beginning, in fact this is going to be the last thing we will do in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to get the type of the variable, because it becomes all the more important, because since you have not declared a data type for a variable, you did not declare the variable in the first place. So how do we know what data type a certain variable is? So let's go ahead and see what we can find out from this. So this code will be of course available in the datatype.txt file in your assignments underscore introduction folder, which we have just downloaded. So let me show you this. Now I'll put my entire name. Name equal to, into quotes, Krishnakant. As I said, and you also saw on the slide, there is a function called type. If we use it now, the immediate response was class str. So Python told us that it's a string. Let's say if I want to really test Python's smartness, well, I used another variable called age, so it got declared and Python has assigned a data type to it according to the data I provided. Let's see what the data type is. Type age, that's the variable, and guess what? Here you go, it's int. Of course, there's the third task in the file which you will do yourself and find out. So similarly, there are different data types. There is also one called Boolean with a T or F capital for true or false. So these are the different data types. There are more data types which we will get into later on. There is a list which you refer to in other languages as array, and there are several other things. But for now, I think this much is enough. You can try this out, and until the next tutorial, this is Krishnakant Mane signing off. Goodbye and happy programming.